Welcome to the Safe Room. I am your host, Shon Williams, the president, and we're back with another episode. And today I have a fantastic guest with me. This person I actually had a conversation with before. This is not the first time. I'm really glad to have her back. And listen, she has amazing penmanship. Like her word game or just everything. She has a high IQ, high level of just knowledge, and I'm so excited to have her for this conversation. We got the one and only Glowz. Glowz, how are you doing?
That is such an amazing introduction. Oh, I'm well. I'm good. I'm good.
That's great to hear. Yeah, like I mentioned before, this is not the first time we've talked. The first time we did talk, it was a fantastic conversation there, and I'm hoping today it's the same result, even higher. My expectations for this is like super high. I like to push myself, push the boundaries and everything, but I know with you here, you're about to drop some gems. You're about to drop some real stuff. It's not going to be nothing filter or it's just fame for the heart. No, like this is why I got you here because like I know you are someone that shares stories and perspective in the most authentic way possible. No, like there's no part of it that's fake or I'm just sugarcoating it. So again, I'm really glad to have you on the podcast.
I'm so honored. I'm so.
Yes, absolutely. So before we get into the conversation, everyone, because we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to talk about Glowz, what you do, and we're also going to talk a bit about incarceration amongst black men. This was a conversation that I've been holding off for a while because I was trying to get the right person to talk about it. I didn't want to jump into something that I have a small knowledge about. And yeah, it should be really good. But before we get into all of that, we're going to start with our segment. We're going to keep the vibes going, guys. I started this a couple weeks back, so we're going to continue it. And this time, I actually have a name for it. It's called the hot seat. So, Glowz, I just got 4 questions for you. Just 4 simple questions, and we're just going to go into it. Speed, rapid round. So, are you ready?
Okay.
All right. No pressure. Don't worry. So, outside of your work, tell me something about yourself, or if you can, summarize about yourself in 1 sentence.
I like animals and food.
Okay. All right. That's a different answer because usually some people take the time to like think like, oh shoot, like I need to say something like abstract and everything. Glowz is just like, I like animals and food, man. Just no, I think that's perfect. May I just ask, like, what animals do you like specifically?
Oh, I like too many animals. I don't know what to choose, but I would say I love hummingbirds and horses. I don't know, hummingbirds and horses. I love them so much.
Hummingbirds. That's a new one, because like I don't think I've ever seen like a hummingbird where I'm around. So like I haven't seen nothing like that. It might be the fact because I just don't go outside that much. Like I need to do better. But if you know any spots where there's like any hummingbirds, like let me know because like I'm trying to like get in tune with nature.
You won't believe it. I discovered this only in 2020. Black Creek Farm by Jane and Shoreham.
Really?
I know, I was so surprised because it was around summertime. I was doing farm school. I took a farm school course from a Sundance Harvest, and we had to do like I think we're talking about what we talk about. I forgot what we talked about. But we went to Black Creek Farm, mind you. Of all the years on Jane, I only discovered the Black Creek Farm probably only 4 or 5 years ago. And there's people who've been living there for 40, 50
Mm.
years. They didn't even know about the farm because they thought the farm was connected to part of a pioneer village. And I'm like, wow,
Oh.
that was so amazing. But so I sat down. We sat down in class, and because we do our outdoors, right? And I see these birds flapping their little wings, and I'm like, "What's that?" I'm like, oh, "Is that a hummingbird? We have hummingbirds here?" And they're like, "Yeah." Like they're looking at me as if, duh. But I'm like looking at them. I'm like, "Huh?" So we're just looking at each other, and I'm like, "Say word." So after that, I
Wow.
went back home. I ordered Amazon a hummingbird feeder because I am going to get a nice video and picture with hummingbirds feeding off my hand. I'm telling you, that's my bucket list.
I did not know that. I mean, no, listen, I totally agree with you about the whole not knowing there was like a Black Creek farm. Like, I didn't know that until I actually started attending York University. So, like, for the people who lived on like the Jane Strip, you take the 35 just to go out to Steels and like that was the first time I realized I'm like, oh shit, there's a farm. Like, wait, why? Like, I'm thinking like this is like only existing in like the most rural areas outside of Toronto and everything. So to see that for the first time, not only was it shocking, but it was kind of like a very special moment because it's like we need more like that, like in the community. We need more spaces like Black Creek Farm because I feel like you don't see that much often, and when you do, you take such appreciation to it.
Yeah, and it's actually quite amazing because the Creek Farm was actually a response to all the high food cost that was going on in Jane Finch area because Jane Finch area has the highest food cost, and I can attest to that because there are some like especially vegetables and all the good stuff. It's cheaper outside the Jane Finch community. It's hectic. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's very interesting. But no, I love your answer. It was just very genuine. Again, it's like it was very heartwarming too. Like again, a lot of people usually think about that one because it's like, ah, like I want to say the most like exquisite answer possible. It's just like no, like I'm gonna keep it simple. So I really appreciate that. Okay, question two. Question two. Your
Okay.
favorite book that you have ever read?
Oh, this is a hard one. Oh, um, Dinotopia when I was in
Mm,
grade 4. I just
okay.
love dinosaurs, and I always had like, I guess like with my imagination, I always imagined when humans lived with dinosaurs, and Dinotopia captures that. It was literally like somebody from like I don't know, like just read my mind, but years ago, decades ago actually. But they just wrote it down, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I could write that. So, like that, Dinotopia.
Okay. So, like, let me ask this: like, was it a book that, at the time, being in fourth grade, was it like, I just picked it for me, or was it like school related? Like, I had to pick it because, like, for assignment or a project.
No, I picked it. I saw dinosaurs. I'm like, okay, let's go. Um, there was another book that I really liked. It was for school. It was called something Magic Tree House, something like that. And they go to a tree house and they travel like different time eras and stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So in creative writing class, I used to write my own versions. And I used to get a little bit overboard. Yeah, so I used to write like 40 pages of like the same series. I was talking about ancient China, Greece, like getting chased out with woolly mammoth because like I think one of the stories they talk about it, but I expanded even more. So that was a school project but Dinotopia, all by myself. I went to that novel section and I'm like, I want to read it. So yeah.
Okay, that's great to hear. Okay, so question three: an interesting fact about yourself that you rarely share with anyone.
Huh. Oh no. Mm. Oh, I know. There is this one tree that I literally just hug it. It's my hugging tree. I just hug it and be like, I love you. And I'm proud of
Mmm.
it. And like it's like that tree has helped me cope with my stress. You don't even understand. I don't even there's no words to describe it. And I don't really share that with people, but like yes, I tell people, yeah, go hug a tree. And like people are just looking at me, they're like, are you like trolling us? And I'm like, no, literally hug a tree. Just hug a tree. Talk to a tree. I'm telling you. It may sound crazy, but I'm telling you, it's gonna help and you're gonna be like, you're gonna thank me later. I'm telling you. You're welcome.
No, like I feel like no, that is a thing. In fact, I'll even say this too. Sometimes I may not hug a tree, but I will definitely like talk to a wall. And like you're in public and just like let's say you're chilling, but you're talking to the wall, but like you're kind of talking to yourself, and someone's just like looking at you like, yo, is this guy crazy? Like, why are you talking to a wall for? Like, doesn't speak back. It's just like, listen. Sometimes if you want to get that emotion off, sometimes we gotta talk to non-living objects, like just like I don't know, that's like our
Yeah.
way of reflection in a way.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, everyone. Talk to a tree, hug a tree, talk to the wall. And
You sound like
also
one of
be
those
friends.
like you sound like one of those person like I'm prescribing you to this like hug 2 trees a day and make sure you.
If I was ever a doctor, I would do that. And my patients would be like, what? I'm telling you. I'm telling you. So I'm subscribing this, and yes, you're going to talk to a squirrel up by Milliken Park or by a Downsview Park, and they're going to be like, what? What is this?
Beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. So the final question. The final question. I'm trying to contain myself, but like I can't help but laugh. Okay, 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 okay.
Okay, okay.
All right. So the last question is, what is your personal safe room?
Really, my personal safe room is honestly in my mind. But if you're talking about like more physical sense, it'll be by the river. It'll be by the river, and then mentally I'll put myself into like that happy place, and that is my safe place. Yeah.
Well, you did say mentally, and again, I would like for you to kind of extend on that because again, most people assume that the safe room has to be physical, but it can be mental as well. So I'm curious.
So, well, because I like to write like fiction books and sci fiction books too. So sometimes I actually live out my novels, or I literally live out what I'm going to write. And that's like my safe space because my imagination has always been there for me since I was young. It has always been the place where if I was, for example, maybe getting bullied, or maybe I was alone and doing recess, or maybe I was getting into any conflicts, or even just maybe I'm feeling sad. Even as a child, I put myself in that imagination world. Because too often times when we grow up, we lose our imagination because maybe society made fun of us, maybe our family told us to grow up, and maybe you didn't want to tell your friends because like your friends are like telling you about their little siblings or other people and laughing at them, so you feel embarrassed and you force yourself to move out of that imagination. And even up till now, even someone who is 29 years old, leaving the 20s, I still have my imagination place because you can't take that away from me. You could put me in the concrete jungle, you could put me like literally maybe contain me anywhere else, but you can't take my mind. That's the most hardest thing you could break. And I really want to tell everyone, don't allow anything to break your mind, because if you allow if you allow that to penetrate into your mind, it will affect you physically too, right? So please take care of your mind and take care of that inner child.
That's beautiful. No, for real. Like I feel like a lot of times, like we use our imagination to like escape from the hardest parts in life, and I know for sure that I can be very like creative with my mind. Like if I put it to it, sometimes if I see something, like I always like imagine myself in that situation. So let's say like I'm watching like a basketball game. I can always imagine myself like being one of the players on the court, or like maybe I'm a sports commentator that's like commentating the game, just like getting really into it and everything. And for a lot of people, that is your safe space, being able to express themselves in a whole other dimension. Because sometimes when you're dealing with things happening in the real world, it's just there's so much stress, there's so much pressure. I mean, look at me, guys. Like I just graduated from university, and you'd think I would feel like, oh, it's all sunshine and flowers and everything is cool, but it's just like I still have a lot of things to do. And I need to tell myself, like, look, I don't want to put myself in a state where I'm so stressed out where I'm gonna lose my mind, because no one wants that. No human being wants that. So I'm glad that you really reflected and you shared on that. Having that imagination, because I feel like sometimes we need to tap into that. We need to tap into that imagination once in a while.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's it. That's the hot seat again. I hope you enjoyed it. I really loved your answers. I will say this. I loved your answers because I've only doing this for a couple weeks, but you probably had like the best round so far. Like I'm being honest.
Oh.
Okay, so let's get into the questions and everything because, like I mentioned at the beginning, you have a lot of hats on you. You're an author, you're a writer, spoken word. There's a lot of that in between. So I just want to know, like, when did this all start for you? Because even though, again, you have so much, there had to have been some starting point where it all just kicked off into full gear, and from there this is what your purpose was, how you're represented by your peers, by your loved ones. So when did this all started for you?
Well, writing wise, I've been doing it for 20 years now. Spoken word wise, about I'll say like 8 to 9 years. Um, Spoken word, I started in Missouri, so it was I think it was like a conference that I went to, but it was like I went to like the artist creative arts, and before then I was starting to write poetry. I wrote poetry songwriting for a while, but for me to actually be on stage, my very first performance was in Missouri, and from then I connected with people in Baltimore, in Miami, in Chicago, and like Arizona and all those other places. But most of it was like I had to do it like online, on the air with like their local radio stations and stuff. And then when I came back to Toronto, I performed, and I'll remember it was pretty much like it was one performance, and I froze 3 times, and I was like, not doing this. You know what I mean? Let me just go back to my short stories and blogging because I had Blogspot, like blogger,
Yeah.
right? But it was Rise. It was Rise Entertainment up in
Mm,
yeah, up in like
yeah.
Malvern.
I
And
know exactly what you're talking about. Shout out to Rise. Shout out to Rise.
yo, shout out to Rise, shout out to Randell. And I always have to big them up no matter like how old I get, no matter where like my writing takes me, because they were the reason that gave me that confidence to really push and like push as hard as I did. I got to network. It was just a room of supportive people, and from then it just, yeah, my network just expanded. It really expanded, and I'll forever like be in gratitude for Endel. Forever in gratitude for that, because that's where I really pushed. And and from then I had other people that would have me, like I would shadow under them, and they would have me do my spoken word pieces or read a segment from one of my old novels in community centers, in schools. And yeah, pretty much my work was like mostly, I think, use like a like material, like resource, or like resource teacher material and stuff,
Right.
to able to get into the topics. And that's how I really got into like the school boards and that kind of stuff, and like more of the community engagement. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And the fact that you mentioned that you started off in like different places like Missouri and like had shows in Baltimore and all that stuff. That's something that I really didn't know because a lot of people when they get started in like anything, whether it's like spoken word or poetry, and like you said, like you've been doing that for not as long as compared to like reading or writing. It's a great thing to see because you did talk about networking, which is really important. I feel like a lot of like artists or creators right now are trying to network, but the whole thing that people don't understand, that networking is, it's very tedious, and it's never going to be something that once you go to your first event and connect with people, then everything's going to fall into place. Sometimes it's going to take like multiple events to go to, like it's a work in progress. And again, to see that from you, because like I've heard your name since back in high
Oh
school and
wow.
everything. Yeah, so like,
Really?
yeah, so it wasn't even like, oh, I knew her like that, but I knew her name, I knew who she was, but it was just probably last year I got in tune like with your stuff. It was only when I was like scrolling through Instagram and I saw like I think I saw a post and I was like, she looks so familiar. Like the name looks so familiar, and I'm like, oh wait, like yeah, like I remember, like I remember from the time back in high school, and like I used to like see her stuff and everything. And again, I'm from that period. Like what I'm trying to get at is that I could have easily forgot you. No, not even a disrespectful way. I could have easily,
Yeah.
just like, oh, it's just another face. But again, because of that, that grind and commitment to keep networking, to keep pushing yourself, I think that's what really makes you stand out to like anyone else that's like, oh, I got a supporter, I got a group of supporters, but it's like, yeah, but how are you getting your name out there? How are you making a statement? How are you making an impact in your community? That way, when people see you, they're like, see Glowz, like she's her, like she's different and everything like that. So yeah, it's great to see. And again, for all the experience that you encapsulated as well, you must have learned like a lot around the way, like from different mentors, from different people who have given you feedback and advice. So yeah, it's a beautiful sight to see.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that you have heard of me since high school. That's wow. That's yeah, that's really surprising.
Yeah, no, like listen, sometimes you know something, and then it's like it doesn't come out until like the right moment. I felt like this was just the right moment for me to just express that right here on the podcast.
Thank you so much
So
for that.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So based on your career so far, and I did kind of mention this already a bit, but maybe you can just go a little bit into context. So how has you kind of being the person you are today as a writer, as a spoken word artist, all these different things, how has that changed your life for the better, or even better yet, maybe you could express on a moment where your impact has changed another person's life.
Because I don't usually talk about the impacts I on other people's life, but whenever people have like approached me, then yeah, I'm like, oh wow, okay. But before I get into that, even the doors are opened, like even like in the school boards, even in the institutions. That was very huge for me, especially with institutions. It was something that I always wanted to get in since I was in grade 4. Like I used to imagine like me getting books inside, and for me to finally accomplish that, like last, like I would say it was this year mostly, but I know like last year people had like mentioned it. Um, that was very huge. That was very huge. I actually don't even know how to like react to it because I'm like, whoa, I did it.
Mm.
So, but I'm like, I'm like, I don't know how to react. Um, there's actually, if you go into my book page, my author underscore Glowz page, I did put some testimonial, like some of the voice recordings, and it talked about how some family members have reached out to me to talk about the impact that the book had on their family members. And I think
Mm.
that was like super huge. Like that was very huge. I know that Tara from the Forgiveness Project managed to do like I guess for the Black History Month within different institutions, and I have some loved ones who had came out, reach out to me, or even complete strangers reach out to me and said that hey, we saw you talk about like your books inside, and I'm like wow. And they told me this during a time where I was just like about to give up. I was going through a lot. I'm still recovering from it emotionally, but just to hear that, it was super motivating, and it really made me realize I can't stop. Like I really have to push harder. Like like yes, I have just scratched the surface of my goal, but I have to keep pushing.
And I think that last part you mentioned, like keep pushing. A lot of people assume that once they hit that first stride, it's like again, you're set in motion, the wheels are gonna keep turning. But it's so easy to get that first accomplishment, but it's so much harder having that consistency, having that level of determination to, put in the extra hours, stay up late at night, go the extra mile on your thing. So again, like the story you just shared, how like people are coming up to you and it's like, oh, you're making such an impact. It makes you feel there's like some wholesomeness in your heart. It's like, wow, like I'm actually doing something. I'm doing something right. Because again, a lot of the times we ask ourselves, are we doing something right? I know for a lot of creators or anyone who's trying to get in like the arts industry or such, we go through such labor, yet sometimes we are the hardest crowd to get like the benefits or the rewards from it. It's harder from like our peers to say, "Oh, like you're doing great, you're doing a fantastic job," rather than to a complete stranger. It's like, oh, they may do something that isn't as crazy, and it's all of a sudden it's like, "Oh man, good job," and you're just thinking to yourself like, been busting my ass, guys. Like, where's my congratulations or celebration? Like, where's all of that? And again, it puts us in a deep state where you feel so down. You're like, you know what? I just kind of want to just give in. Just like, you know, this ain't worth it. But again, it's always making sure that we're keeping our head up and we're pushing for greatness because we're all bound for greatness. I always say that I'm a person that believes in myself that I can be the best, but I also want my peers to be on top with me. And I feel like, and I will boast a bit. I feel like no one has that type of mindset like me, where it's like I want everyone to win. Because let's be honest, we're humans. We're self-interested. We're all about ourselves and the greed. But for me, I think it's also about we're all trying to reach the same goal. So why are we trying to take different pathways where we're getting in conflict or we're fighting with each other? It's just I don't get it. So I think from here on out, to anyone listening to this episode, to anyone listening to what Glowz just said, keep pushing. Keep your head up, keep pushing. Support the ones around you. Because life is short. Life is so short. You don't even know when things could just change in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, that's very true.
Guys, I told you we were gonna get deep in this episode. So like, if this is all hitting you a little bit different, then that fair warning. We're gonna keep going into that deep realm. Okay, so Glows, yeah, your content it just provides a level of realism, like I mentioned at the beginning. It just strikes everyone that seems to reach upon it. And again, you're so unapologetic. So when you had that realism, you realized that it must have been like a real like gift that you like to utilize all the time. But were there also moments where you doubted that yourself, like being too real, was like, am I hurting some people? Am I damaging those who think that like, oh, like she might be taking it a little too real? She's going a little bit too far. She's pushing the envelope. Like, were there times? I guess just in for yourself. I'm not asking you to describe anyone who thought that, but just in yourself, you just thought maybe I shouldn't like be so like what I am today.
Um, yeah, because it's a lonely road. And for anyone that, I know like there was one our part in high school, everyone's like, yo, let's be real. I'm real, I'm real. I'm like, being real is not, it's a very lonely road. If when you actually go into the road of like unapologetic truth, like a lot, you're going to be tested. And that one moment was actually very recently. And I actually even like removed the video from the grid. Like the video's there, and it was for Prisoner Justice Day, and I did like a segment on myself and where did the passion come from. And I was literally by P4W in Kinston because I actually went to their healing circle. P4W means prison for women, and it was pretty much the only penitentiary for all the women in this country. So, so you can
Wow.
imagine the history that came into, yeah, like I'll definitely have like you could look it up. And I was literally there. I was staring at it. I think it was like at I would say the side, yeah, by the side, because I was facing the P4W, and behind me was a Kingston Penitentiary. And for those who know, like, there's a lot of history there, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I literally broke down. I broke down. I had I probably was the most open, but I couldn't get the words out. And even after the video, I'm like, oh my God, this is too much. Like, what would people think of me? Oh, this and that. Because I was talking about, even though there was doors that shut on me when, what, I was eager to get into the work, but even the doors that slightly open, I backed away. Because it wasn't all doors shut on me. There was opportunities that opened to me. And I was talking about, I didn't want to get into this work if I had my own bias and my own resentment. because in this work I'm going to meet different individuals from different walks of life. And for those who don't know, I do want to be like transparent. Like I have lost friends to gun violence. I have lost friends to different violence. Could I get into this work knowing that maybe one day, even for 1 second, I will sit face to face to the same people that have caused harm or have caused an impact? Could I sit there and not resent them? Could I sit there and not resent other people who are supporting them? And I spoke about it, but I'm like, that's when I started having doubts in my head. I'm like, yo, why am I telling this? What is the point of me telling this?
Mm.
But but if I'm expecting people to come to share about, their own personal journey, I personally chose that I want to be open with that, but I was scared, and I really want to let people know that because I don't talk about it. I don't talk about the journey. I only said that all doors were closed at me, but I also stopped myself because I told myself I wouldn't get into this work until I came to a point where if I were to meet individuals where it challenged my own morals, challenged my own perspectives and my principles, could
Right.
I would I be mature enough, like spiritually, mentally, emotionally mature enough to be like, you know what? I can't support you because this and this and this, but I still see you as a human, and I want the best for you, and and I know there's gonna be someone that is willing and is capable to give you the best support. Because when I was younger, I would have never thought of that. And
Mm.
as I'm entering into this realm, like I'm speaking to you as a burnt out person too, right? I'm burnt out because I'm seeing all types of stuff. I'm getting exposed to all sorts of stuff. If I decide to force myself during that time, I would have snapped. I would say, yo, screw this. I can't do this no more. Only want to help you, and you guys can, take
Yeah,
myself, you know
just
what I mean? So, and I wanted to delete that video because I was like, yo, maybe this is too raw. Maybe
mm,
people gonna be like, oh, you're I don't know what's that word? I forgot.
it's like it's too gritty, or just like it has that it's
Yeah.
like it may be like, oh, like she's acting way too like braggadocious or whatever. Just like maybe you need to just like, yes, we know that's you, but like I think you're pushing the envelope a bit,
Yeah, you're
Glow. So
pushing
like,
it. I'm like, yo, Glowz, you're not whatever. And I'm like, no, because I will tell you, before that, before that IG live, I cried. I went to Ottawa for a release camp all the way to Kingston. It's like what, like a 2 hours. I felt less. I feel like it felt less. But the whole entire way I was crying, but I had all the words in my mind. But when I recorded, it was legit raw. It was not edited. You see tears. I feel like you see like a snot. um, you know what I mean? So I was like, near the end, I was repeating myself. I was, oh my gosh, that was probably one of the most rawest one I did since the first time I even spoke with this type of work. And like even my
mm,
closest people, they even know. My family, my blood family doesn't even know anything about this, but I'm giving publicly. And I'm like, yo, did I really push myself? And I couldn't even look at the video. Yeah, like I shared it, but that was it. I couldn't even look at it because it was just too raw. It was too raw for me. But even though if it feels too raw for me at that moment, is it really too raw? Or have I actually entered another like step? Have I took another step to
yeah.
better myself, right? So that's probably like my longest answer to your question. So yeah.
No, I love it. It's just like I love how I asked the question. Just like we went into a full on discussion. Sometimes I tell myself I don't want to be talking all the time. So like when my guests take over, I just let them go. I let them go. So, and again, you said a lot, but I think the one that really caught to me was like, again, when you were in that moment, sharing what was on your mind, and you were kind of referring it to as an analogy of like, can I sit with you guys and then just be like, look, I can't like apologize for what I'm saying, but I'm hoping that I can still see the best of you and everything. Again, like there's a certain level of attainment that you need to reach where like you can be real, but also be like, all right, I gotta like be able to just not really turn the other cheek, but just like really calm myself and not let my emotions get to me. Because everyone talks about I want to see the table, like I want to be there, like with the higher ups, so that way I can tell them how I feel. But did you ever ask, like, what happens when you actually get there? Like, what are you actually going to say? What's your mannerism going to be in that moment? Because, again, like a younger version of me, like high school me, I would have been walking in this bitch just stomping out, just like, F you, you're cool, F you, just like going off. But like nowadays, it's just like, if I'm coming in here, like, I'm still going to speak. But it's just like, I'm going to keep things to myself because I might even say you're just not ready to hear what I have to say. Like this is just not the time. Or better yet, I just don't feel like I need to lash out everything of like what I'm thinking to you because that doesn't really concern you as well. Like I'll tell you like it is. And again, we're just trying to like, educate people and let them know what is up. And like this is the real world. This is what we see. This is our surroundings. But sometimes we might have those thoughts that are so deep, so like prolonged that it's just like I can't share with you. It's like the saying of like, oh, I'm gonna take this to the grave. It's like, yeah, like I might take this to the grave. I might tell one or two people, but other than that, I'm not splurging around on social media. I may not say what I have to say, or maybe again, sometimes emotions kind of come into the factor where just like it does come out, but like that's not what was my direction. I was feeling it, but I'm really glad that you took the time to share that because I believe I did see like some parts of the clip and I did see the emotion and I'm just like, damn. Like for me, for my initial reaction, I was like, go off, Glow. Just go off on them. Like let them know. Yeah. So, but no, thank you for sharing that. So you did mention how like you did you went to the prisons for women, and it kind of translates into my next question, or sort of like the next part of the conversation, which is incarceration amongst black men. And I know it's not probably just black men; it's black women as well. But I know you host conversations on Instagram as well, like. And I just want you to let people know what that is about because, again, those are very heavy hitting conversations, whether it's like in the afternoon, late at night as well. And I just want you to let the audience know what that is about because I feel a lot of people should get a good grasp about what these conversations mean, how much weight, how much toll they have.
Okay, so you're talking about the Let's Talk series, and I started that like yeah, around 2000 and yeah 2000, yeah, 2020, end of 2020. I took a break from it, and I when I came back, I literally started off with my good friend the story of a prison wife, and we started off the Let's Talk series again, with supporting incarcerated loved ones who are incarcerated. And I wanted this whole entire year to be really focused on that. So pretty much everyone that have came up pretty much had been impacted by incarceration. They were incarcerated themselves. They're trying to navigate society after incarceration. There's folks who are wrongfully convicted. There are those who have done the time for, they took ownership and now they're trying to just rebuild back their life. There's folks that talked about bringing awareness to issues that's going on inside and also outside, and how the system traps into a very vicious cycle. We talked about how it impacts on loved ones. So it could be spouses. It could be right now. I'm trying to work with children, even service providers. So yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
Let's Talk series, I've seen a couple of those, and like again, it's so touching to see that these conversations are existent because most of the time you know, you would probably have to watch like a documentary, like like something on Netflix or anything to get the real gritty content. But to see something like this, like right on Instagram, right on social media, I feel like a lot of people aren't doing this enough. And again, because of what you're trying to do, like show love to those that are incarcerated, and like again, taking a step further, trying to connect with children. It goes to show that this whole cycle, it's more than just like people who are locked up. It's not just that,
Yeah.
it's about loved ones like who are affected. There's more that like branches down as you like look into it. You take a deeper scope. And I just love how you're covering all those parts. So just to kind of ask like another question in terms of that, you did mention that you've had a lot of friends and like you lost them to like gun gang violence and everything. So what made you even more in terms of like what you were already doing with yourself to address incarceration or just any situation similar to that? Because like maybe for yourself, it's just like I'm seeing all this happen and it's so hard for me to even explain it with words at the moment. So like I'm just curious, how were you feeling in that moment that made you say, this is something that I want to keep like talking about it, advocating because more people need to hear it.
So I was very inspired by the state of corrections from Think Twice, Zia Brown, and I loved what they were doing, and I'm like, you know what? These conversations needs to continue, and also another thing was that oftentimes once you even got charged, you're remand, convicted. It's like people society forgets about you. They it's like their voices forget like whatever your opinions and that kind of stuff. It gets like shut out from behind the walls, and oftentimes people just categorize everybody into into one group, and I'm like, no, a lot of them are innocent. A lot of them is really seriously like mental health. Seriously, it was really like
Mm,
a lot of it is mental health. A lot of it's like because of like poverty. A lot of it is like a lot of these issues can be addressed, but by community. Of course, like, there's a small percentage where like there's definitely way more support, but oftentimes a lot of stuff can be addressed by just addressing a lot of like the basic needs and like the mental support. And people don't understand that a lot of people inside, they literally cannot afford their bail, or they don't have the surety, or maybe they have
mm,
their surety but it's a toxic environment, so they rather stay inside. Like there's so much different stuff, and then there's the wrongfully convicted, and like there's so many factors that like even as much as I have like loved ones from different angles, it's I'm always learning something new. I'm always learning something new. Um, there's even like conversations where even like they start from childhood. Some of the folks that I have encountered in my life, it was because of bullying, and they ended up,
mm.
going for a different angle, or like even folks that were just literally defending themselves, but the courts have a different story, and what you really like just sometimes like you need to like sit down and really hear, like it's messed up, like some of them are like messed up. Sometimes you're just like, why are they even inside? Like why? Like why
Yeah.
could like I don't like there's so many words where like I'm like, yo, I'm not even like an expert to talk about this. Like there's like people who've been doing this work for like decades, for years, and like there's a lot of it's heartbreaking, like you hear it and you're just like, no, like, and you shouldn't even be incarcerated. You shouldn't even be here. You should
And
be, yeah, like, like
no, no,
even thinking about it,
I just want,
like,
I just want to like add on to it. So like, it is crazy. So like, you did mention how like you may not have like the type of knowledge to deal with like all these court cases, all these different trials. So I'm just wondering, have you ever had a conversation with someone who kind of deals in that field and like they've shared like what they've seen or what they've gone through, who they've had to like plead their case for and everything?
mm, you know, um, yeah, yeah, like you hear it, you hear it, you hear it, you hear it. but it's mostly when they're not when they're retired. They usually speak up when they're retired. They usually speak up when they're on like leave. Um, you hear it. You I won't say when you hear it too late, but like it's like what we're thinking. For those who know what's going on, a lot of them agree. A lot of them agree. I have not really met anybody who has not like agreed, but they weren't in a position to speak out. But by the time they speak out, they're already out of the system, or the family members of people who are part or who are the other fence. And I would say 2020 was the year where a lot of things came up. And
Yeah.
yeah, for those who yeah, like I think the very first time I really heard was like in state corrections, but even like before, like there were people who probably were in the system for like maybe at 1 2 months, but they just couldn't handle it. They just couldn't handle it, so they left. So I've encountered a lot, especially when I was in like a few friends in Texas, and I didn't even know that until like way later on in our friendship, because they didn't want to talk about it because it was too traumatizing. Even though they were staying there for like maybe a month or two, and I'm like, wow, that is really hectic. And they even
Mm.
exposed even from the trainings. Trust me, there's a whole heap of stuff. There's a whole heap of stuff. Like, we didn't get started there. Like, you know what I mean?
Damn.
So,
Damn. Wow, no, no,
yeah, for
that's crazy to hear. No, for real. And the fact that you mentioned that some of them are like retired or like they're maybe on sabbatical or absent, it kind of goes to show that it's so cutthroat that's like you it's like the minute you're in, you have to like, switch the code, like how your language and how you approach certain things. So it's like I want to say something, but like I might just lose my job or lose my position on this. And like what matters more to me? Again, this is just the individual. Obviously, we know what's the more like, better off for the society and overall and stuff, but it's like for I'm thinking about me right now. So it's just like I just got to do my job, do what I need to do, even though yeah, if you told me you pull me to the side when like no cards on the table, this won't affect anything in the future, like yeah, like I would say it's messed up, right? So again, that's such a touching point, Glows, and that you mentioned about that, because some people, I feel like a lot of people don't assume that. They assume that anyone who's like a lawyer, like anyone who's like defending someone, they're like they're all just mean and evil. And don't get me wrong, there are some wicked
dope.
people out
Yeah,
there.
there's
There
some dope
are.
ones. Yeah, but a lot of them, they're part of it. A lot of it. A lot of it. Oh, sometimes I just want to. Oh, I don't know. It's coming out. It's coming out. Like, I'm just saying to a lot of y'all, if you know you're not guilty, don't let your lawyer talk you into it. Don't let them trick you. Don't let them
Mm,
trick you. Please do not. Don't let them scare you. If you like, sometimes you're better off representing yourself. Study the law. Study the law, please, because there's so many. Oh, another thing. A lot of people are inside. It's because the lawyer tricked them. A lot of them,
yep, that's a fact.
especially legal. You know what? Let me.
No, we're getting into
Oh,
it. We're
we're
just
going
getting
there. We're
deeper and
going
deeper
there.
and deeper.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
I
People have said
love
it.
it.
Mm,
I
please,
love it,
because
man.
some there's too many. I see too many people get trapped. A lot of people who have been supporting, they see this all the time. That pleading guilty, like like because that like that's gonna follow you for the rest. If you know that you're innocent, you fight for it, even if you switch a lawyer.
Yeah,
Please, please, because like they'll scare you. You know what I mean? Especially if you're dealing with some federal cases, like some bigger ones.
yeah.
Oh yeah, you have to be very careful because they love it. They love to try to coerce you to freaking say yes, I plead guilty, and they try to use a scare tactic like, oh, why don't you just take this deal, blah blah blah, say you're guilty, blah blah blah. At
Mm,
least you could blah blah
I
blah. And
feel
I'm like,
like I feel like you can like the best analogy for this. You can basically say a courtroom is like theater. There are actors and there's like a script. There's like a certain way of how things are gonna go, and it's just like you play your part, and as long no one is breaking the fourth wall, then we're good.
Yeah. Remember, these guys are paid to lie too. They're paid to lie. So you know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to see nobody in the G was because they got like please don't. Like I think that's probably one of the most frustrating things. And I'm not even in this for a long time, and I get frustrated too. And that's like just even growing up and just seeing people and not understanding until later on in life. And I'm just like, damn. Oh, oh man. Ooh, I feel like this topic's going to get too wild. Like,
We got time.
because
Look, we got time. So
we
don't
got
don't feel like we
time.
gotta. We don't feel like we gotta cut anything. All right, we got time.
So much time and talking about evidence using rap lyrics during trial. Oh,
I mean, listen. This is common. Like, what's it? What's the case going on right now? The Young Thug, Gunna, and all that stuff, and like, I mean, listen. I'm not trying to tell rappers don't like. Listen, you want to put these things in your song, fine, but just know if things come back to haunt you, they're going right. Like, listen, Your Honor, I have the evidence. They just put on one of your tracks and just like done deal, done deal.
like but even like just like the danger of internet prejudice zone, like it like even like the component, the jury makeup of like how they select your music, and
Mm-hmm.
like it's just dangerous. And like especially if like I'm listening to more of like a lot of the younger generation, like yo, like it's ruthless in court, it's ruthless. And I'm just seeing
Mm-hmm.
this, and like I'm just saying, like, be mindful. Like, I know a lot of people are like they're fighting it now. Like, you're seeing more like celebrities taking on this. But just really, please be careful. Like, because like until like it's like done in legislation. Like, yo, don't do all that. Like, it's very dangerous. But like, I don't know what to say because only it seems to only be in rap and hip hop. And like because like, I listen to metal rock, and some of the metal rock I'm like,
Yeah.
so dang.
Like, so we're not gonna talk
So
about that one sentence you said. Hello, that whole chord, that whole riff. I mean, like, let's break down that verse. It's just like, nah, rap and hip hop. It's like literally one. It could be even like three words, and it's just like, you care to explain that, huh? It's like, hey
yeah,
man, I plead the fifth.
it gets hard.
Mm,
like
no, it's true. It's absolutely true. So I think like again, we talked about a lot of things, like some of the problems in between that. So I'm just curious, like from your conversations, like what are some of the things that you want listeners or anyone who's like taking part, whether it's like the Let's Talk, any other Instagram lives, or even projects or initiatives that you're supporting or collaborating with. What are some of the things that you want people to take away for themselves, so that way they can apply it into any situation that is like similar to what you kind of you're in the field in with right now.
um I would say really really listen, like listen to what is needed, and not the wants. I see this happen like oftentimes, and it comes from good hearts. Like it comes from a good heart, but sometimes what we envision, it overrides what is needed at a present moment, and it could do way more harm than good. And that's something I'm also like learning too, right? Like like my vision could be super big, but sometimes the person that I'll be supporting, they just want like a secure housing. They just want transportation, like things like that. So just be very mindful of that. And like I know like often like society and like media, like there's always like this label, and it's like society is like loves to hold grudges, but what is that
Mm-hmm.
grudge really gonna do? Like because remember, like you society's only picking the ones that has a label. So what about the people who never got caught? You could be walking down the street
Yeah.
and you don't know how people. So why? So if you really, so I, because I hear a lot of stuff. I hear a lot of things. A lot of them don't really go directly to me because you see my Instagram page. I don't really get, you know, so so people don't really like talk to me, try to talk me out of it, whatever. But if you could just see, like, if you could still see like the human, and if you're trying to have like a better society, you have to talk about the whole entire society. And that's one of the things that I really want people to know, because how can you dehumanize people and still call yourself human? And
Right.
like I know like some folks will take it like a grain of salt, and that's totally fine. Like I totally get it, and like it even took me to a place to even like see everyone as humans, because as I mentioned before, there are some things where I may never be like okay with, but like I'm in like a mature state where I'm like, you know what, I can actually like I could provide support for those who are capable of providing support, right? And that took me a long time. It took me a lot of exposure, and took me a lot of lessons, and I'm still continuing. So even with the Let's Talk, just really seeing like the human and like how you can nurture that humanity, because these human cages, like these dehumanizing like media and that other kind of stuff, it doesn't do anything good, and it will lead back into society. You can't expect to just throw things, sweep it under the rug, push skeletons in the closet, and expect them to be shut for long. It's going to come
Mm-hmm.
out. We have to address the root causes, and people have been saying it for so long. Like service providers, loved ones, the voices themselves, they have said the same thing. They've been repeating it. Even people on the other side of the fence, when they're in a space where they can actually speak out, they say the same thing. So it's not like it's
Mm-hmm.
not it's like pretty much everyone's on the same page, but we're I don't know. I guess that's a people human in us. We just like to make it sound like we're divided, but we're not divided. We're actually, it's
Mm-hmm.
like the same thing, but it's just different angles. And if and like what I really want people to gain from the Let's Talk is that yes, we have different approaches, but if it's going towards the same goal, support one another. Don't go bickering back and forth. Don't try to clash. Don't try to be a who's on top. At the end of the day, you're reaching the same goal. It's like we're trying to have a ladder, and people just keep on trying to cut. We're trying to cut each other's like ladders off, when all of us are still trying to get to the
Right.
top. Like we're to the top, trying to get out of like the hole that for like generations have dug into, right? And yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
really what I want to say. And like even just like the IG series, like everyone's bringing up different like issues that's going on, different components, different stuff that needs to be addressed. There
Right.
is so much work, but like the workers are few. Like the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And even yeah, so you know, there's just so much to say.
Yeah. No, there is so much to say, and again, I think it's just overall, again, like you mentioned, people just need to start supporting each other, and like from these conversations, like take something from it and apply it to yourself. Like apply that knowledge, because sometimes we tell ourselves, I might listen to a conversation, but I won't really take away much because it doesn't really deal with me, because like I'm not really in this situation. I'm not really going through what's going on with this person or with this individual. And it's like I mentioned before, life changes in a flash, like in a second. So even though you may be doing one thing now, you may be doing something different completely, like in the next hour or two, the next day, the next week, the next 30 minutes. So I think from any conversation that you have from someone, in this case, Glowz, like with your stuff with Let's Talk, take it with you. And even if it's like sharing it with another person, share it, because maybe someone else might be going through something and they may not be as confident to tell you what's going on, because again, it's just for them, they're trying to cope with everything and like be able to muster up that confidence to share it. And everyone has their right to take their time of how they want to express themselves. So maybe if you have that information, you can talk to a friend, share it with someone else, share it with a family member. Maybe there's just something that they want to actually, support or get in tune with, and you feel like you've done justice. It's like, I've actually shared this information. I've actually shared it with someone. And then maybe if you start to see that, okay, more people are starting to, support this, maybe I should get in tune to what's happening as well. So I totally agree with the whole, like, just supporting one another. Don't try to cut off like the stems off the ladder. We're all trying to like get to the top, and why can't we do that together? Like, why does it feel like there's like this, like, united we stand, divided we fall, and we're always in the ladder? We're just so divided. Like, let's try to be united for once in a while.
Yeah. Um, yeah, because there's so much work to be done, you know. Yeah, I don't know what else more. Um, it seems like, you know, there's just so much to be done, and like people just need to be more really like educated, you know?
Absolutely. Information literacy. That's what we need to apply. Information literacy. That's the way to go. So that is about it. That's about it. Glowz, thank you so much for this fantastic. This was easily better than the first conversation we had. This was like, it had everything. It had the real talks, the gems, the knowledge, the laughter, and everything. So I'm really glad that you came here on today and you just shared your story to the fullest potential.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And like I know this is not the last time. You know, there's so much more to be talked about, you know? So
Absolutely, absolutely. So let everyone know where they can follow you on social media, anything, maybe any projects you're on right now, so people can just stay in tune with your work.
okay. So on my Let's Talk, and I did like a prisoner justice day like awareness for a bit. You can find it on my Instagram at g.l._glowz. There are some, you can see some of like my prior like work with Vibe Arts Desire Line 2, where I talk about the glass reflections from behind these walls. You can look at the human in us all. That was also a Vibe Arts with Next Gen Free. You can look up at you can look at my books like Kintsugi Memoir Hood Chronicles. You can order it from me on Instagram. And also for like some initiatives that I really would love people to support is the Books Behind These Walls with me and Chronicles of Jane, where we have a book drive to the Toronto South. We're trying to fill up their library. What else? Um, I know with the Forgiveness Project, I think, and I'm trying to remember the person's name, Troy. I know they're doing like a clothing drive for also like the South. Um, Also, you know, for those that want to like more of or like donations, I know the Ottawa Jail Hotline. They just started their release camps. So basically, for those who are released, they're provided with a meal, a starter pack. They also have they also provide like some like monetary support for loved ones, also for those who are inside. Shout out to my homie, Freedom is a Must. He has like the blog. If you, for anyone who supports me, please support all my friends. I am actually please support the phone zaps, the email zaps that I will here and there will actually do. Also follow to Toronto Prisoners Right Project. There's so much stuff I'm calling out right now. Um, and there's like I feel like there's one more. I'm trying to think right now. Oh, any petitions? And I remember. Right now in Kentville, that's like around like the Kingston area. They're trying to destroy farmlands to build new prison. Let's not let that happen because no, we're not going to do that. And yeah, anything else? You just continue to follow me. I post like pretty much daily anything that's been going on when it comes to like what's going on with institutions or what are like, you know, some different stuff. There's a lot of gold funds, a lot of mutual aid requests, and like petitions. So if you could just follow and just support, that will really, 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 really help. And
Mm.
yeah, all right.
That's perfect, perfect. Yeah, guys. So everything that Glowz just said, and like it's on standby. Like you got all of that. So don't say or complain like, oh, like she didn't give all the resources or everything go to support. Like she dropped everything. So make sure you guys go support Glowz. Again, Glowz, thank you so much to just coming on the podcast. And thank you to everyone listening. You can follow me at the Safe Room Official on Instagram. Go check out my website at thesaferoompodcast.com. I know it's .com, but listen, we from Canada, all right? The .ca just wasn't available at the time, all right? But it's .com. So again, guys, just make sure you keep following me mostly on Instagram. I'm mostly active on Instagram. I do have a couple things coming up. I do have a special announcement. I'm still working on the pieces, so make sure you guys stay tuned in for that. And also, I'm trying to kind of venture into more the field of like MCing. So if anyone needs like someone that hosts an event, a conference, and I'm offering my services, you can email me at Shon, SHON _Williams at hotmail.ca. If you just want to get the full detail of what I mean, you can just go on my Instagram and it's one of the pinned posts. So it's like right there. So again, you guys can go check it out. Again, if you need like someone as an MC, I might be getting a gig very soon. So you might see your boy sometime, and I'll let you know. I'll give you some special clips and everything. So just wanted to get that out. But yeah, guys, we're about to sign off. Glowz, thank you again for coming on the Safe Room.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys, and we will see you guys soon.